you cannot use a vertical bow with a firearms turkey tag.
In Minnesota.
In all years prior, if you have a firearms license for turkey, you can use a bow. That's how it's always been, right? I'm talking about crossbow. I'm talking about a bow.
Vertical compound bow.
And I checked the regulations after. Now it says that if you have a firearms tag, you can use a crossbow, but you cannot use a vertical bow. That's mind-boggling to me. That makes no sense. So basically what they're saying is if you're using a crossbow, you can get whatever tag you want. By buying a firearms tag, I'm reducing the amount of days I can hunt significantly, and I'm making it harder, but I can't do that. And then you continue to read down in the regulations under the archery specific section, and it says that you can use a mechanical device to draw the bow, but it has to be under your own force.
Yeah.
So that's contradictory to being able to use a crossbow. So just be careful. Welcome to the Range Podcast. I'm Ricky Bruley, and with me is Jake Hollywood Iverson. Join us at the archery range, where we'll tell stories from the hunt, discuss technical bow shooting tactics and gear, and pick the brains of some of the most successful people to ever shoot a bow. Whether you're about to shoot that X for the win or send an arrow at a trophy buck, this podcast is for you. The Range Podcast is brought to you by Vapor Trail Archery, makers of the best bowstrings money can buy, originators of limb-driven arrow rest technology, and innovators of Stokerized stabilizer systems. Welcome to The Range, everybody. I'm your host, Ricky Bruley, and I'm sitting here with Hollywood, man.
How's it going, man?
Good. He's finally back. This is awesome. I guess you only missed one episode.
Back in the hot seat, yeah. It's been a little break, but yeah, we're back.
It's just so hit or miss. It's so spotty, like when we can get guests, because it's hard to get people during the day, and so it's like, all right, well, let's do something, you know. And so here we are. We're just kind of winging it, no script.
Yeah, we're flying free as an eagle, man.
Yeah, I love it.
Keeping it free, nice and loose.
That's awesome.
Talk about what we want.
Indeed.
Mainly turkeys, though.
For sure, that is the main topic of discussion. We're going to continue this conversation of turkey hunting. So, yes, the topic of today's discussion is turkeys. We're going to continue that conversation. Before we do that, you can find the video version of this episode on our Vapor Trail YouTube channel. So make sure you head on over, subscribe, give us a like, and hit that bell so you can be up to date on all things archery. And, of course, you can look us up on the Range Podcast on both Instagram and Facebook, as well as the Vapor Trail and Stokerized social channels. So, we're just going to get right into it. Hollywood had an opportunity to get out this morning, and he's had a little bit of what we called last year, the turkey struggle bus. And so thought we'd just talk a little bit about that and a little bit about his setup and how the season's been going for him. So we'll be right back.
Yeah, I mean, you already said it's the struggle bus. I really have not hunted that hard this year yet. Like, you already killed. I mean, that's just incredible. That was your first day sitting?
Yeah.
Right?
That's never happened. That's the first time ever.
That's insane. Usually in my short 3 or 4 years, whatever this is now of me doing this whole gig, this is how my season goes.
Yeah.
It's like I'll go sit 20 plus days and then finally kill. But I've only sat a couple of times, mainly doing a lot of like evening scouting and seeing if I can get an evening bird, at that 5:30 to 8 o'clock time. And that's proven pretty difficult because apparently every other dude that gets off of work at 5 o'clock goes out there. So it's just a kind of a fight for land. But we've found quite a few, and I'm also bringing the wife out. I've mentioned that a couple times. Like, she wants to go with the bow.
I love that.
She won the battle. So I know, like with Charles a couple episodes ago, I was saying, I was trying to convince her out of it, but whatever. She can stack arrows at 10 yards. I said that was the deal. So there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been trying to get that. And then I'm only hunting like an hour in the mornings so far. The weekends have been really busy for me. So, homeowner and growing up problems, I guess.
Adulting.
Yeah, exactly. So, this weekend I'm going to try tomorrow. Sunday's pretty much out of the question though. So it's like one full day.
It's got to be nice though to be able to go out and not have like any restriction, right? Like you can just go and for the most part hunt as long as you need to.
Yeah, there's nothing at home. Like just kind of have to, let the dogs out at, 6 p.m. or something, the dogs basically, they can live alone, whatever. And if she sleeps in or something, then I can just go do whatever. That's like yesterday morning. Almost every morning I have to wake her up. Like 4 a.m. I'm like, you going or you just sleeping? So, but yeah, I mean, we've been struggling-ish. I haven't seen, until this morning, I haven't seen a tom on its feet while I'm hunting, like actually my feet on the ground. I've seen plenty of toms while driving, plenty of toms on private properties. So, but up until this morning, that's it. And this morning, you kind of know that was a bust. And I can jump way into that story if we want to. Just,
Yeah, I think we can get that down that road. We can and maybe start like kind of from the beginning because I know a few episodes back we talked with Charles and he is a man of he really has a lot of confidence and he's a good caller.
Yeah.
But this is turkey hunting.
Yeah.
And you always want to manifest things if you can, And so, but in that episode, it's funny because he's like, oh yeah, by this time, Wednesday, you're gonna have a dead bird, and again, and me trying to like pump you up and be like, man, I'm excited for you because you do have a really good chance at killing a bird, and I didn't want to, like,
You don't want to crap on it and then just like have no excitement to wake up at 4 a.m.
Yeah. But then it's like it also creates that expectation a little bit too. I mean, I know as well as most people too that when it comes to hunting, right? Like better than to get your hopes up too high, but there's still that you can't help but have some disappointment, right?
Well, it's like they're not pets on these private lands, but Charles kind of made it sound like they're pets when he's like, yo, look at this, I got 10 toms all in one photo. I'm like, okay, so this is a done deal. But no, it hasn't been.
And it's been a weird year, which we talked about before too, with just the weather. And I mean, there is turkeys everywhere. It's insane. And I hate to say, like, I feel bad saying that because then there's other areas of the country where they're just decimated, and they're not doing so well. So, and maybe I've just been paying closer attention. I don't know, but it's just been incredible the amount of turkeys I've been seeing running around. I mean, even in the metro.
I think last year was a good hatch, and then the easy winter really allowed all of those. Was it broods or whatever the young kids?
Colts.
Yeah, whatever. See, I'm still very fresh.
Young kids. The young kid turkeys.
Them little youngins. Really let them grow up. So, yeah, up here right now in Minnesota, it's like in certain spots, you'll definitely find some hotbeds. Damon and I were talking about that this morning. Like, there's a lot of birds. A ton of birds. So. Yeah,
and that's not to crap on, like, your struggle either, by the way. I'm not trying
No, but it does sound funny. Like, I'm struggling, but there's thousands of birds.
Yeah, I mean, when we went out and when I shot that Jake, Damon was with, and he was filming everything, and Johnny right now is like, this is his busy season.
Yeah,
like, this is when, like, he's just dealing with, because he's working for a feed and seed company now, or owns a feed and seed company now, and so everybody's getting into the gardening. I mean, they sell fertilizer, and they sell, manure, and they sell seed and all that stuff. And so they're just getting slammed right now. And it's really strange for him not to be sitting in a blind in the mornings.
Right.
And he even said this morning in our text that he's not sure if he'll even get out at all. And I'm just like, we'll get you out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll figure that out. But the point I'm getting at with that is where we get out of the blind and you can see there's like 30 birds in the adjacent field, like 200 yards away, and they're just over there strutting, you know. And Damon's losing his mind. You know, he just cannot comprehend the fact that we're not trying to go after them, you know, because of the few times that you have that type of an opportunity, right? Like you just, that just doesn't happen every day, right? But there's not a lot of pressure out there. And then, you know, it's their farm fields. And so they're kind of used to people coming and going and vehicles moving around and stuff like that. So they're not like super spooky. But yeah, he was just like, I can't believe we're not. He's like, Johnny, what's the deal? You know, and Johnny's like, I gotta get back to work, man. We're about to get slammed this morning. I got to get there by 10. And he just couldn't fathom that concept, you know. And I get that too. I love that excitement that he gets. It's not even about him hunting it. He wants to film it, but he wants to be a part of it, you know.
Yeah, and no offense to Johnny, but I don't see him doing like a spot and stock without a.
He has no desire to do that.
Yeah.
He has no desire. I tried so many times. I'm like, dude, I got the predator decoy and I've got a Montana silhouette decoy. Let's do it. Let's try. And he was just like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm like, man, come on, dude. Let's do this.
I guess he likes, you know, I mean, if that's your time to sit back and relax, take it, I guess.
Yeah. So, you know, and that's fine. But
yeah.
So the first, well, you sat 2 days with Charles?
2 mornings.
2 mornings.
You know, with Charles. Yeah. And the first day was just a washout, just rain.
Yeah.
And not to say you can't kill in the rain. Did you see that from Glenn?
Mm-mm.
Glenn just scored yesterday. Downpouring rain, Wisconsin. Wow. So he's done.
Wow. He didn't send that to me.
He just sent it this morning. So I was like, dang it. So yes,
that's cool. Good for him.
You
awesome.
can get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was stoked. And 35-yard shot too, mind you.
Yeah, he's insane.
He's an animal. So.
I want to touch on the rain thing again too, just real quick, because I remember you were talking to a certain someone. I won't say any names, but they had made some mention about how you can't go turkey hunting because it's raining, or you know, with alluding to the fact that you just can't be successful. Is kind of what I was taking from that. And I'm thinking in my head, bull honky.
Yeah.
Because, well, for one, and I guess this isn't 100% based on my experience, but also just from what I've been told by, you know, some people that you would definitely qualify as an expert in turkey hunting. And, you know, one of the things with the rain is when they're in the woods, there's all that noise.
Right.
And then there's all that cover too. So they can't see if a predator is coming in.
Yep.
So they like to be out in the open.
Yep. I've heard the same thing.
And so that's a great opportunity for you to you know, do some scouting as well.
Yep.
But that's proof that they don't like huddle down, or I don't know what the word is, you know, but they don't, I mean, they still move. They still do what they're doing. It doesn't, you know, doesn't bother them really much at all.
No, we still went out and we still heard, you know, what was it? Probably 4 gobblers going off that opening morning, but, only ended up with a hen that came in and, you know, she just walked through and was gone. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely out there. When we when we drove around the property a little bit later, you know, there's birds everywhere. Yeah. You know, they're definitely out there in the water. It's just how uncomfortable do you want to be if you're not in a blind?
Yeah. Without a doubt, you're going to be uncomfortable. I mean, even with rain gear, you know, and it depends on the setup, but I that's the only thing I would want to do would be to sit in a blind.
Yes.
Last year when me and my buddy Travis were out, you know, we were, you know, stuck out there in the rain. We were trying to put basically a stock on a bird, and it started downpouring, and it's just like, you know, and I got rain gear, but I'm not in a position where I can start digging stuff out of my bag, right? Like we're trying to call this bird in, you know, and so you just end up getting soaked. And then at that point, your rain gear's pointless. Right. And even if you could put it on, you sweat. Yep. You know, so it's definitely not fun.
You guys always get like the rainiest week, I swear to God. Because it happened this year too.
Yeah.
It was raining on you guys, but not as bad. Not as bad as last year.
It didn't rain on us at all that morning. It was a nice, clear morning, but it has been
It's been a really wet season.
Probably a week and a half of straight rain.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first time we've seen the sun in over a week.
Yeah, that's why Damon and I were like, you know, not a guarantee to kill, but we're gonna see birds.
Yeah.
Like we should. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we got stood up.
Yeah.
But, I mean, other than like the two at the last property, but yeah, it's been just wet, and I mean, still I've seen a lot of birds.
Yeah.
But
it is funny when I talked to Damon yesterday on the phone, and he had just the wildest encounter the other day, and he posted it on his story on Instagram, but he's just like driving past this house.
Should see if you can get the video.
Yeah, I think he has permission at this place, right? But he
Yes.
sees two toms.
That's where we were this morning.
He sees two toms pecking at each other, like just going at each other, and he actually gets out of the vehicle and walks up to them
In shorts and Birkenstocks. And it was raining too.
And he doesn't have a tag, so he can't do anything anyways, right? Because he filled his tag on a Jake, which I'm super proud of him for that, because this whole thing with, I mean, they had one friend that they were filming and the guy wouldn't. I mean, these were nice toms. Mm-hmm. And he just watched them, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me! Like what? I mean, what are you looking for, the 30-pounder or the 15-inch beard, or what are you trying to find here? Because those are all three of those birds that this dude just watched.
I take every opportunity now.
Yep.
Any opportunity.
And so he was shocked that I would shoot a Jake, I think. Well, I wouldn't say shocked, but he did mention, he was like, I wasn't prepared for you to shoot that Jake like right away, because he saw me come to full draw and he did not expect that. And I'm like, dude, you do not get those opportunities.
No.
And especially in my position, I don't have very many days that I can hunt.
Exactly.
And as much as I like to have a few days and get some experience and everything right now, I have to take that opportunity. And if it's going to happen in the first hour on day one, it's happening. I'm not hesitating. And I've got some nice creatures on the wall already. So I'm kind of beyond the, I'm kind of beyond the, I'm not trying to dog on trophy hunters or anything like that, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking for big antlers, I'll pass on small bucks, often. But again, it's just all about how much time do I have, what I mean? And I'm going to let a small buck walk, but I'm not letting a doe get by me.
No,
so,
never.
So that's the thing, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to, anyway, I'm going down this rabbit hole, so let's get back on track. But, so a couple days with Charles, as turkey hunting goes, we're a bust. And then what?
I've ran some public lands since. I'll get to where my brain is right now, but ran some public land, and we've had some gobbles, and I finally kind of cracked the lid on the one. It's a public spot, but it was kind of like a public gem that I found last year, and I was like, I don't want to go in there. Like, I found a new spot that's 10 minutes from the house, go with convenience, and there's been birds in there, and we actually did have, I guess I kind of lied, but there was one tom across the road in a private land field, like cornfield, and I did try calling just my heart out. Like, I was just blowing, like, box call, freaking everything, like mouth call, just as loud as I could. The wind is like in our face, and he's over that way. Like, I tried, and the only time I think he heard it once, he just picked his head up and just kept feeding. And it was like the 6 o'clock hour. And I think we've talked about that on the podcast before. Like, evening hunts never have had like any reaction. They're pretty like, they're not very vocal in my experience. Again, 4 years, pretty short, but not very vocal, not very aggressive, not a lot going on in the evenings. And that all came true that night. He just stayed in the private land, and whatever, and someone might have pushed him off, but finally cracked open the private, or the public gem, but I don't tell anyone where it is. Went there, and
as you shouldn't.
Yeah, and there's quite a few gobbles, but this year it's like they all were pushed off. So I don't know if someone pushed them away or what, but then plan was to go potentially private with someone else this morning or public. He does both. And then Damon called me yesterday, and he's telling me about these toms that he's like, dude, they're dumb. Like, one of them's got to die. I got to film this. So this is leading into where my headspace is now, because he's like, this should be, done deal. And we're texting back and forth. He's like, it's not though. I'm like, that's exactly my headset. Like, I know it's not going to work, because as soon as you see something so stupid, so easy, it never works out that way. We go and sit this morning, and had a bearded hen come in with another hen at like, I think they're 50, 60 yards out, but they're on the other side of a fence. So there's no shot at all, literally. Yeah. And then they fed off. Yeah. And we did hear like one gobble, and Damon just like looks at me. He's like, that's far. It's like way gone. And, we were both expecting, because he called me actually. I was heading home last night. It was like 5:30. And he goes, dude, there's a tom at that same property just sitting on a log right now. I'm like, dude, I could take a left right now and meet you there. And he's like, no, this isn't going to be a hunt. He's like, I can't do that. So sure, we could have maybe had it done last night too, but it just would have been like those layups where it's just like, yeah, you can't do that. But yeah, we left the property this morning and go to another spot that he had, and I showed you the photo. It's like he's talking away, and I'm like, Damon, there's a big tom right in front of this dude's door, like at his house. And he's like, oh, that's my other spot that I have. I'm like, oh my God. So that's the like first like close encounter I've had with a tom. And, Damon's doing it right. I'm just along for the ride. He's being a good guide. And, we pulled into the driveway. He still ran up to the door to see if the homeowner was there, just to make sure. And as he's knocking on the door, I mean, that tom is literally like 10 yards away, just standing there still gobbling. And it's like, the morals and ethics was just like, it's just really tugging at you. But, we still did it the right way, knocked. That turkey made his way around the house. And finally, I get the nod to grab the bow and go. And at that point, the bird already made his way to the trees, and he's gone. It's like, oh my God. So, but that's the whole headspace now is like, okay, this is like 2 times. It's almost been guaranteed, right? And that's where I say they're not our pets. It's never guaranteed. Yeah. Like, again, Damon and I didn't hype it up too much, like over text and the phone calls last night. We're like, it's not gonna work. Just kind of maybe leaving some hope there, but I don't know. I guess I'm smart enough to know it's like, okay, yeah, you have that stupid of an opportunity. What are the odds tomorrow? So, yeah. And you kind of figure it out through experiences, and he's for his age, he's had quite a few already, but he's got a little ways to go as far as like being humbled and like understanding. I did remind him, because he was alluding to that, chip shot sort of deal, and I said, well, you and I both know that nothing's guaranteed, so just be careful on your
with
birds.
That. No, just with you guys going out this morning. Yeah. And so then he kind of flips the switch and tries to, like, instead of trying to be positive and manifest it, he like takes the negative approach and is like, oh, it ain't gonna happen.
So it's you that turned it.
No chance it's gonna happen. And I'm like, and he kind of talked about that too when we did the podcast with him and Griffin last year. He talked about how that's like kind of part of his mentality too, because then he doesn't get his hopes up, and then he doesn't have this expectation. But I think, again, it's just whatever. We're not willing these turkeys into place, right? No. It's just, I guess it depends on what your definition of willing is. Okay, so if you're a good caller, then I guess you kind of are.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But at the same time, we're not using our positivity or mentality to get them to come in. But I think it's just, for the hunter psyche. You know what I mean? You just
you want the good vibes, right?
Yeah, but just try to just look at it as not being at work.
Yeah, true. That's kind of what I was at this morning.
And you have an opportunity. It's always nice to know that there's going to be birds where you're going, because then,
right.
I talked about that with Dan Johnson on the 9 Finger Chronicles about having trail cameras and stuff like that. I was like, there's something that boosts your confidence in knowing that there's actually deer there.
Well, it helps the morning go by a little bit smoother. Yeah. At least like the public lands, like, sure, we'll hear some gobbles like nearby, but it's like, okay, what are the odds now that they come in? The shotgun guys have been in here running and gunning, for 2 weeks. What are the odds that it actually happens? Whereas, like, if you have the private lands, like, okay, the odds are a little bit higher, and at least we get to watch something. So it helps.
But one thing that's crazy too, and the time that me and my friend Travis have spent out in the turkey woods, is we've kind of established this new rule, and we talk about it all the time, but we forget about it. And it happened again to us this year, where it's like, as soon as you feel like it's time to get up and move on, sit for another half hour. Because this happened to me and him last year, and then it's happened to him on multiple occasions, where as soon as he starts getting ready to pack up and starts moving around and everything, boom, he'll see a couple birds bust out of there. You know what I mean? Like, they were, within 20 yards. And the thing about his style of hunting is he doesn't really like to use decoys. He likes to kind of get into some thicker areas where he can be covered up, but then his thought process is that so many times a tom will see his decoys and they're expecting the hens to come to it.
Yeah.
And that does happen, right? And so what he likes about being in thicker brush and in the woods is that they can't see that hen, so they come closer, so then they're looking. And it's a great strategy. It works for him. He gets a bird almost every year, so he's very successful with that strategy. And but so many times it's like, and like I said, with this year, I shot my bird, and then I went out with him the next morning and was filming him, and we set up in this spot, and we were trying to call these birds off of private onto public ground, and they were, they could hear us. There was a Jake that was kind of on the outside of the whole group, and he kept looking over, like he really wanted to come over really bad, but he just wouldn't do it. And why would you? There's a whole brood of hens right down here, 15 of them.
Yeah.
And all he can do is hear a hen, but he can't see a hen. But there's always that, like when I shot my tom 2 years ago with my shotgun, that bird just kind of came out of nowhere. We heard gobbles. There was gobbles, but it was not him.
I hate the silent runners.
So we're like calling and calling, and this bird's responding to us, and he's calling, and Travis is cutting him off, and he's calling right back and stuff. And this bird just comes in completely unannounced, so that can always happen. You know what I mean? So the patience part, like you talked about with Matt, and that's a huge one. And again, we got caught again this year, because I think we sat for, Travis was like, he texted me, because we were like sitting like 10 yards apart, or whatever, but he texted me and he said, what time do you got to get going? And I said, well, probably about 10:45 or so. And it was 10 o'clock when he texted me. And so then it was like 10:25. He starts moving around, gets up to take a leak. And so I was like, okay, I guess we're done. We're packing up, so I stand up and I'm, doing my business, and I look over and here goes a turkey running off, and it was, it's on the edge of the woods, like 60 yards away. And I couldn't tell for sure if it was a hen or a Jake or a tom or whatever. It looked like a decent sized bird. But again, like, so now I'm like, okay, now we need to have like a 45-minute rule.
Yeah. I call that, it's like the last cast sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like one more cast. And then the same thing for me. I told Damon the same thing this morning. I was like, dude, I really got pissed. Dude, I really got to go. And I didn't want to ruin anything. So I just did my business and, get back to it. And I was like, usually when I do that, there's a bird that's like right outside the door almost every time. And it's the same thing for duck hunting. Like, if I want ducks to come and it's been 20 minutes of silence, I'll literally just step out in the river, like go adjust a decoy. We'll have God just unleashes all of his animals. I'm like, yeah, right now I'm right in the middle. Why not? So I know exactly that feeling. It's like, give it just a little bit more and they'll be here. But yeah, not this morning for myself.
We got plenty of time, so that's good.
Yeah.
And the weather's starting to make a break. And I've been seeing tons of birds getting killed. Hopefully there's some left. by the time you get.
I know. Well, when we rolled through 2 nights ago, Katie and I, we went by that one public spot that's 10 minutes from my doorstep. And this place, I think I showed you the video, the one strutter that was out there, but it's been full of birds, at least on neighboring properties. And like, it just takes one, right?
Yeah.
I go through there and we circled the whole thing. There's not a single bird around. I'm like, that's concerning because someone messed something up or they killed, multiple. And I'm like, there's not a single bird around. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to move. So we went and checked out another spot. But man, my mind just gets racing, and it's right there with Damon where, I'm sure you get the same way where you have permission to these spots, or, you get so many spots in your head where you're like, I know this is a good spot. This can be a good spot. This can be a good spot. It's like, now where do I go? It's like, it's 4 a.m. You only have like 20 minutes to make your decision before you're like, I got to hit the road. And I don't decide the night before. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I kind of like to just go out, like especially on public, like I've got a few spots where I have like probably 60 or 70% of the time I can throw out some sort of call right from the road and I'll get a response.
Yep.
But it's got to be at the right time too, you know what I mean? Like you got to start seeing the sun start to kind of glow in the horizon, and there's some people like Charles, man, he likes to be in the blind like an hour before sunrise. But he also has a good idea of kind of where they're going to be, and he has the ability to pull them from a decent distance.
Right.
But on public, so I've got those spots, right, where I can hit, like if I can go to one, and if we don't get a response, the other spot isn't too far away. It's like a 5-minute drive, so we can get there real quick and then throw out some calls. So we can hit multiple spots from the road without even having to get too deep, and then it's like, oh, there's a guy. Okay, this is where we're going to go.
That's nice.
And we just have everything ready to go, so we can literally park the car, throw everything on our back, and get moving. But like with Travis, we're just running and gunning, so we don't have a blind, we don't have nothing. We just got to get our guns ready, and we're good to go. But that's not always, you don't always have that luxury either,
right.
So again, like you said, then you're just kind of like, well, this spot's proven to be good in the past, so I guess we'll just kind of go in, and then you just kind of start walking around and just throwing out calls. He can do an owl call really well.
Damon can too. I was like, dude, that's pretty tight. And he's like, I think he took it wrong. He's like, well, the birds think it's cool. And I'm like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that is insane. Like, it was right on. No responses. And that'll happen. You know what I mean? But it's just he can do it really well, and we oftentimes get a response from that. I'm not so good, but I've found success just taking my turkey reed in my mouth and doing a coyote call, and that works. You can probably see the brain is trying to function this in my head, but.
You just throw out a couple of yips, and then you can throw a howl in, a little bit of a howl, and I'll get a response from turkeys in the morning.
Damn, I went and bought a crow call last year.
Yeah.
That has worked, but that's more like afternoon, I think. I wouldn't want to rip a crow call at like 5 a.m. I've never heard a crow call as far as I can think, like a crow going off at 5, but maybe it works. I don't know. But like...
Yeah, for a coyote, all you have to do is just on your turkey call. It depends on what you have. Like I have some that sound a little bit better, but you just have to press your tongue tighter on the reed so you get a really high pitched sound.
So like you're essentially like as if you're going to blow this turkey call. So it's just sitting in there normal, but then you just
But it takes a lot. You got to take a big breath because you're putting out a lot of air, and you're forcing it really hard. You're forcing it really hard so you can get that really high pitched yip sound. Huh. And I often get a response with that. And I like that because I don't have to carry around shot calls.
Right.
But it's not always, it's good to have some variety. But like when I go out with Travis, like he's got the owl call down, and
that's sweet.
And so then I'll just do a couple of years ago, I took Coda out in the morning, and that's how we were able to get on some birds. And then I screwed up because I didn't guess where they were. I thought they were farther away than they were. And we literally got into the woods, and they were roosting like 30 yards off the road.
Oops.
So we got in there, and we busted them all out of the trees right away. And I was like, oh, wow, that was a bonehead move. That I think if there's one thing that I need to learn more about, and I don't know if it's maybe because my hearing isn't as good as it used to
yeah.
be or what, but I'm like, it's a humbling moment where you're just like, geez, man, getting over 40, this is going to be ridiculous.
I mean, I'm not half that age, but, close. And Damon's like, did you hear that? I'm like, what? I blew mine out doing waterfall, and I don't know if he's ever done that or not, but it's just like, that's my own mistake, but I'm just like, no, I can't hear nothing. I just hear ringing all the time. So it's like, no, I didn't hear that, dude.
Yep.
It's got to be a loud gobble for me to hear it.
Yeah, he caught some noise from the bird that I shot at and missed, earlier that morning. He heard them before we did. He was like, "Oh, did you hear that?" And I thought I had kind of heard something, but I didn't really think much of it. I thought it was a chair squeaking, like not squeaking, but just some noise from a chair from Johnny moving around or something like that.
Gotcha.
But it was literally turkeys coming through the trees.
So you could hear like the feathers just like rustling.
Yeah.
Dude, that's insane. There's no way I'd hear that. Not a chance. I mean, if they were close enough, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. Right now for the public lands, like I'm trying to find these really secret spots, but I also found the private land, and I'm like, I haven't door knocked yet for anything. I might.
Yeah.
I might, because there's a lot of birds and a lot of field and a lot of nobody. So,
yeah. And I think that, well, one, you don't really have nothing to lose. Worst they can say is no, right? But at the same time, always make sure you let them know that you're not using a gun, that you're using a bow. Because I've had situations where, you know what I mean, like they don't want shotguns going off around their house or whatever it might be, that kind of thing. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you're going to – but if you're using a bow, most of the time they laugh at you. They're just like, go ahead, have fun. You know what I mean?
You're not going to do it.
And that's the experience that I've had, knocking on doors out west too. As soon as you let them know that you're trying to do it with a bow, they're just like, I think a lot of people don't even realize that we're that stupid to even try to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point, yeah.
And so they're like, gal, yeah, I mean, sure, great. Yeah, if you can do it, knock yourself out, So I've been told that a few times, but so do it, try it.
I might tomorrow. Tomorrow is when I'd probably do it, because I did find there's a lot of birds around that spot. I don't know if I sent you the picture. I was literally just doing like speed scouting. I had shorts on at like it's 5:45 a.m. and a sweatshirt. I was just stopping in at a place before I went to the gym, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna run through here, see if I get anything. And there's actually a lot of birds around this spot, and there's one guy on the far end, and I'm like, I don't know how he hasn't killed yet, because this side is like loaded.
Yeah.
And then I go to leave, and
our ratchet stage here is falling apart.
Jason's getting antsy.
So people can see how ratchet operation we got going on here. It's great that it just stayed there though. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was waiting for something to happen behind. But yeah, I left that public land, and the private was just still loaded with toms and hens, and I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gonna have to ask. 6:30 a.m. is not usually the right time to do that, so
no,
at least in my eyes. So I'll maybe wait for a Saturday, like 9 a.m. or something. So maybe I'll hunt there tomorrow morning. Then if we get bust, that's actually a good idea. See, this is how I decide. It's just last second. I was telling Damon this morning, like, imagine like getting permission and, or not getting permission. The house is just like loaded up with like Ring doorbell camera.
Yeah,
you'd be screwed.
Oh, no chance. You're
like,
yeah.
That's why Damon didn't want to do it too, because he's like, when we first rolled up on this property, he's just like, no, we got to ask first. He's like, because this place did have cameras everywhere. He's like, we got to ask before we're going in. So
yeah,
ask, lose the bird, whatever. At least the landowner's happy, and we're not, you can get in big trouble for that. So it's just like, run it safe. You're good.
Especially if you do end up taking some trophy, caliber animal, and then it's like, anyways, yeah. So always, follow the rules. Don't break the law.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can I touch on this?
Yes.
I don't know if we've mentioned this in the podcast. For the out-of-state people, this is going to blow their mind maybe. But, we did talk about this off the podcast. The interesting situation that I'm stuck in right now is Minnesota passed a law where you must have blaze orange on your ground blind if you're going to run a ground blind. Either the whole top has to be blaze orange, or all sides have to have blaze orange, like 12 by 12, like 12 by 12 inches of blaze orange. I'm just like, I just am getting this blind from Charles.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't know if I want to use it. Because, I mean, it sounds like that's insane.
Well, and I think, now this has been, I'm pretty sure this has been for at least, they might have passed this last year. It might have even been the year before. I get it.
Same.
I get it.
Safe, right?
And I don't think that it's, I mean,
I guess I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think it's going to scare the birds away, if that's a concern. I mean, the material that you're using could, so you'd want to be conscious of that.
Yeah, that's
something that doesn't have like shine or glare or something like that. But, you know, I don't know. It is more work, but I guess if I was in an area where I know there's a lot of hunters, I don't want to get shot. You know what I mean?
No, and I like the idea of it, and not even for like me getting shot. It's just like last year when I was fighting all these people in public, I'd have guys roll in and it's like they didn't even know they're 5 yards from me. Well, not 5, but you know, close.
Yeah.
Where maybe in the dark you might be able to see a little bit of tinge where it's like, oh man, I'm really close, and you don't want to be talking too much because, you know, it's right. Maybe they're close to the roost or something. You don't want to bust them out. So I'm here for it with safety, but dude, I don't know about scaring them off.
Yeah, I don't know, but so I'm just curious, you know, specifically what's the detriment or what concerns you about having to do
I'm just
that?
thinking like maybe the blaze orange could possibly, like, maybe they're going to see it. And since it's the first year of them having to look at these blinds or if they even notice a blind, and maybe there's that argument, you know, when they come into the decoys, they don't give a crap about nothing. So maybe it won't matter, but I guess I'm just scared, you know, like turkeys, you're taught, like their vision is so sharp, so good that now you're going to throw out this huge, you know, white flag, so to speak, and tell them, you know, hey, here I am. But I don't know if that would be true or not. Like, and where am I going to get a 12 inch by 12 inch piece of blaze orange? Because I'm certainly not capping the whole freaking blind.
I honestly, and I think, like, so when you're turkey hunting and you have, you know, a shotgun, you're supposed to wear blaze, right? Or no?
I don't think you have to. Not here.
But boy, I don't know. That's interesting to think about. But because I was going to say, because what I would do is I would just probably have a vest on or something and then just hang that vest from the corner of the blind.
That's what my plan was.
Where there could possibly be somebody coming through. I mean, at least maybe you're not completely, you know, you've got how many square inches of material that you need to have. Maybe you're not completely fulfilling that, but at least you've got something. But that could be, you know, something that you could do. But personally, I don't think that you have really much to worry about. You know, when it comes to deer hunting and stuff, you know, there is some concern in the respect that now you don't have any sort of pattern in there to break up. But with deer, you are going to have to brush that thing in so good anyways.
Right.
I guess that would be the only concern there. But then you got gun hunters, you know, that are running around out there with blaze, but then they also don't have to get close either. Right. So then there's that debate. And I don't know. I'm not a big hunt deer out of a blind guy.
Same.
The only time I would ever use it is if I knew there was a buck in this particular spot and it was the only option. It was like the only way to do it. And I would make sure that you do not see that thing at all.
Right.
But with the turkeys, you know, you can have that. You can literally open that blind all the way up.
Right.
As far as you can. And it's their vision, I think, is it's going to sound like Jurassic Park or something, but I think it's based mostly on movement. And so, like, and this goes all the way back to the double bull videos from way back in the day, Brooks Johnson and Keith Beam. And they would film the blind from outside and they would have it wide open and they'd be wearing black inside. And all it is a black void. Right. And the turkeys don't mind that. They don't have a problem with that. In fact, I've had turkeys come literally right up to the blind and stick their head inside.
Really?
You know, but when they would have, and I was talking to Damon about this, and this is why it's really important to have black gloves, because as soon as they would take their, like if they weren't wearing a glove, you could see their hand. It was like a beacon in there. And so that's why the blind is black inside, and then you also want to wear black as much as you possibly can. Frank, he does the whole, I think burns the end of a cork, and then you put you put it on your face. Okay. It takes the shine down, and then it blackens up your face, and it wipes off really easy. So that's a trick that you can do. I just wear a full black mask.
Same.
But yeah, it's incredible, and like I was telling you, wear your old school Vapor Trail hoodie, but turn it inside out so the logo isn't there. All those things, like when you want to be, in the back corner as far as you can. Like if you've got it open and you've got light kind of coming through each corner, right. you want to try to avoid breaking that plane if you possibly can, because as soon as you do, now you're out in the light,
right?
Because you have light coming in from the sides, right? And so that's where those like surround view blinds.
Yeah, it's nice.
I would never want one because you don't have that black behind you.
Oh, true. On that end, yeah.
You don't have that black behind you, and so now you've got. They see you moving around. You're a big black shadow in there.
That's true.
So that's why, like you were saying, now they make those black panels that you can put up in the back.
I love it just because you don't need to like worry about the window poking or peeking, that everyone has to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that point too.
And I agree. It'd be great, but I would have the back of it blacked out, and then I would try to avoid crossing that plane if I can. And when you're bow hunting, it's next to impossible, because now I always have my bow down here, and I wait for the best opportunity for when the turkey is maybe facing away, hopefully, or like when the two birds came in for me, those two big toms, they were so preoccupied with beating up that decoy that it didn't matter. I was able to haul it back without any problems. But when the jakes came in, I mean, they were 5 feet away from the blind, and so I kind of waited till they got in the decoys as long as I could. But I can't just like draw my bow back here with my bow arm bent to avoid crossing that plane. So I try to draw it as much as I can down low, and then come up, and they still caught some movement. That you get some light that comes in, glints off the riser of the bow or off your broadhead, and they caught some of that movement. It didn't make them take off, but they started moving away, and I was able to settle the pin, take the shot, and get them. But that's the thing. So that's where I'm not really. I wouldn't be too worried about having that solid,
the blaze orange,
because that void, that big black void, does not bother them at all until they see movement in there.
Yeah. And
like you said, so now with all that black in there, you want to make sure everything you're wearing is black. You want to have a black glove. Like Gunner caught it, but I couldn't find my black gloves the night before, and so I went in my golf bag and I pulled out one of my waterproof black FootJoy gloves.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I was wearing when I shot that bird.
Seriously?
Yeah. And it was funny because Damon was kind of like, why do you only have one glove, And it's like, I would rather have two.
Yeah.
But
this one's
I like to be able to feel my trigger and everything like that. And as long as I'm in the dark and my bow is kind of shielding a little bit, it's this hand in the front.
It's this bright old object.
And you wouldn't think it, but those videos that Brooks and Keith did back in the day, like they would film it from outside, and you could literally you could see he would pull his glove off, and all of a sudden it's just like you can see it,
right?
And if you're not moving, whatever, then it's not going to bother the turkey. But as soon as that object moves,
they're like trying to draw back.
They're out. So that's the ticket, and a lot of people don't realize that, and I never thought about that with those surround view blinds, or what's the technical term? Is that what you? Is
I
that
think
what
that's
they're?
What it's called, yeah.
When we set that one up, in the shop here the other day, and I was like, oh man, I wouldn't like that, not at all. But then you mentioned they have those black panels.
I don't know.
Gotta have those.
New, but
gotta have.
They're pretty cheap too, I believe. I don't think they're too much.
Yeah.
My other thought, like, I don't know where to get these 12x12 placards or the top, but besides the point, we've just been running no blind. Just throw the decoys off to the side, let them go past us or something, and then, like, that's the hope, of course, I'll let them go past. They'll never notice you. Yeah, right. But just no blind. And then not only that, I just like to, I don't know if I am ADHD, ADD, or what. maybe I'm just like geared for going quick at animals, but I'm just like, I'm not going to sit there all day. Like, if I know they're up there and they're stuck like in one spot, I'm going to close the distance for them.
Yeah.
Same thing with deer. It's just like, I'm going to do it and just play it smart. Like deer, play the wind, and noise, I guess. But like for birds, it's just like tuck into the woods, get down low, come around, reset up some decoys, see if they see it. So
tell you, man, got to get one of those Montana decoys.
I know Damon's like, dude, we should have tried that. I'm like,
because they're, like the Predator one that I have that mounts to the bow. I've got that one, and I've also got the heads up decoy. But I don't know. I also like to have the silhouette where literally I can I could just be standing there and literally just poof, turkey right there in front of you. You know what I mean?
Is this like the umbrella thing?
It's similar to that, but it's the Montana decoy. It's got it's got a wire in it where you can just like take that wire and
twist
it,
collapse.
and it collapses up, and it's got a stake, right? And so that's how I got the shot at that bird at like 5 feet last year.
Yeah.
Because I literally was like belly crawling up this little rise with that decoy in front of me, right? And there's a little screen so I can look and I can see through it. And then all of a sudden I look, and it's just like the weirdest thing. It was like something out of a horror film, because I look up and I can see this bird way out there, and I'm like, okay, he's still over there. And then I come forward a few more feet, and then I look, and it's like, holy crap, he's like 10 yards closer. And then I go down and I come closer a little bit more, and then I look up and he's like literally right there, and I'm like, shoot, and I just like stick it into the dirt, and then real quick behind it draw back and then stand up, and by the time I could even do anything, he was like hauling in, dude. He was hauling in to take that.
Now you're like trying to aim with your shaft.
Yeah, and I literally, by the time I pulled the trigger, he had already cleared my arrow. But
it's insane.
Again, like such a cool experience, and they will fall for it. You know what I mean? But if they don't know what that movement is, because you can get away with all the movement you want with one of those, but if they don't know, if they don't know what that movement is, then they're gone.
Right.
If they don't recognize it.
That happened to me last year.
And so and I should, of course I'm not going to use mine anymore, so I should just let you borrow it. But that's a real fun way to do it. And I've tried using that thing out in South Dakota a lot, and they don't really fall for that. And it's part of that thing too, where, some guys are, they'll say, oh, I never use a full strut decoy because it has a tendency to scare them off. And then I have other people argue that it it's the other way, so I'm just like, so again, like with Matt was saying, being able to assess the situation and be able to pivot, and you're not always going to make the right decision.
Right.
He kills a lot of birds, but he, I think he probably has more failures than he has successes. And so that's just the way it is. It's just about the persistence that you have and just trying new stuff. And it's frustrating, dude. It's like the spot and stock on a turkey is one of the most frustrating things I think I've ever done.
Yeah.
It's either that you can't get anywhere near them, or they're right in your face.
Last year was like going to be the epitome of probably anything hunting for me up until this point, because like I get on this public, and this is like the secret spot that I go to, and I can hear them back. Like, I don't know if I was just doing hen calls or, shot call or whatever. And I hear them gobble back in these tall standing pines. And I'm like, okay, this is good because it's easy walking, quiet walking, and I can hide in there. And I'm talking to him, yelping and whatnot. And I can hear him he's eating it all up. And then he clears the trees, runs the field edge. And we're both doing the same. Like, I'm working toward him, he's working toward me. And it was just insane because I'm standing. And then I realized, I'm like, okay, idiot, this is standing pines. Where's there any sort of like ground cover to hide? So I hid right behind this like tree that's, not even as wide as me. And I'm like, this is stupid. But it's so cool. Just like, he ate that up, and just, seeing him, white head, just, probably quarter or half strut the whole last few 10 yards or whatever. It wasn't even 10 yards. It was like 20 or 30 yet, but he was still, fluffed up and just gobbling every 2 seconds. I was just like, oh my God, this, like, I've never seen this in my life. Like, this is so sweet. I'm all alone. And then it's like, I do the whole thing. Like, I can see him there. All he needs to do is clear a little bit of brush, and I start drawing back. I turn around the tree, because I want to do like kind of like the new saddle thing, like draw on this side away, and then come around. I come around, his head just pokes up, and boom, gone.
See ya.
God dang it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely hard. That's the only time I've been like true, I feel like in the game for spot and stock, but yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah, it's fun, and I have yet to pull it off. Every bird I've taken so far has been in a blind, and I'm not in any position to start taking any risks. You know what I mean? But like South Dakota, when we hunted out there, it's a little bit different. We were kind of running and gunning.
I was gonna say you kind of have to because you're not living out there, right?
Yeah, and we never sat in a blind, but we always had a mix of bow and gun too, so it was like, so we were just kind of trying to move around, and try to take them that way, you know what I mean? Like and we would set up decoys. We had a few spots where Charles was like, well, this would be a really good spot to just like set up the decoys, and then we'll just sit here and try to call them in. And I think if we if we didn't have so much FOMO, and there wasn't a limited amount of time, I think if you can just find a spot and then just sit there, you know what I mean? And just sit there.
Yeah. And that was my problem.
Something's going to come by, something's going to see those decoys. There's plenty of birds out there,
And last year, I think I had so many failures and same for this year so far, is I have to understand too, like I'm hunting like 1 to 2 hours at most. If I had the day just to sit there, I'm certain I would have killed at least once already with Charles for sure. And then, I mean, maybe one more day, there could have been a chance. But yeah, I think you just need that full day. Just sit and wait.
Yeah. Exactly.
As much as it sucks. As much as it sucks.
I don't know. I mean, it's fun if you're with somebody though too, you know what I mean? Because that's what I love about turkey hunting. You don't have to worry about your scent. Like you can actually like kind of talk to each other. You can move around a little bit. You can do that. You just got to be diligent about making sure somebody's on the lookout at all times.
Right. Yeah.
And like when me and Johnny and Damon were sitting in the blind, it was fun. We were just talking and whispering, or whatever. But and that can help kind of pass the time a little bit, and I've taken my daughter out a few times, and then I'll just I'll do some work while we're sitting in the blind. Like she'll just have movies playing on an iPad, and then I'll just be
it's so sweet
getting some work done like on my laptop.
Deer would be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, the hard part is like 11 to noon. I start getting the nods where I need a nap. Like I've been yawning a couple times. If the camera sees me, it's like, yeah, I've been up this morning. So not that your stories are boring me or anything. I'm just rocking some early mornings.
Oh yeah. Dude, it's by 11 or noon, dude, you've been in there for 7-8 hours. You've been in there for like a whole work shift.
Yeah. So yeah. And then you got, another 7 to 8 hours more to go. That's the only thing that sucks about getting to May,
And midday too, like it can get hot in a
today,
blind.
could you imagine?
Oof. When the sun starts beating down, it can get hot in the blind for sure.
Yeah.
But and Johnny likes, his favorite time is like the 10 to 2 time.
It can be pretty. I haven't hunted a lot of it, but I've seen some loner toms that I would assume would be easier to kill if I hadn't made my mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thought process there is that the birds kind of come through. The toms and the jakes are following the hens wherever they're going. They're feeding on whatever normal pattern that they go on, and so they follow them. And then at a certain point, then the hens will go off and nest. And so then the jakes and the toms are like, all right, well, gosh, I remember seeing I don't know if that's the thought process, but they oftentimes will come back through, late in the morning, that kind of stuff. And that's oftentimes where Johnny has his most success is within the 10 to 2 period. And then I've also heard, and I can't remember, it was somebody I was listening to a Meat Eater podcast once, and there was a guy that said, man, if you can get a turkey to respond to you after like 1 p.m., there's like a 99% chance I'm killing that bird.
I was the 1% chance. But that was me running through public land where I'm like, he probably saw me coming before I even saw him. Mm-hmm. I just heard him gobble, and I was like, holy shit. Like, that's insane.
Well, and I think the theory there is not so much, okay, maybe not so much that you're going to kill that bird, but that you're going to fool it into coming into a decoy
Yeah.
or to come in, because I don't know exactly why there's that 1 o'clock like kind of cutoff time. I don't know if it's just at that point, then they're just like, all right, clock's a ticking, I got to make this happen, or I don't know, but but I've also heard that too. I can't speak to that personally through personal experience, but I think that's about it. I think that's all there is really to say. If anybody has any questions about gear or anything, I mean, I've gone through a lot of different types of gear, and a lot of it works. You just kind of change with the times, or you establish relationships in the industry, and guys are like, hey man, you really got to try this product out. It's like, yeah, give it a whirl, why not? And so we've used a lot of different things. So if anybody has any questions or anything about our gear setups, or if you have questions about the gear you have, or maybe some things that you could do to improve your setup, feel free to reach out. Again, my email is rick@vaportrailarchery.com, and Hollywood is
wood@vaportrailarchery.com.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I guess, thanks everybody for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to see the video version of this episode, you can go to our Vapor Trail YouTube channel. Head over there, subscribe, give us a like, and hit that bell so you can be up to date on all things archery. You can always check us out on the Range Podcast on Facebook and on Instagram, and Stokerized Vapor Trail as well, Instagram and Facebook. And yeah.
With that, we're going to pack up our bows. I'm going to the field. Rick is going to the range. He's done. I'm not.
Yeah.
Peace.
See you later. Thanks. Vapor Trail is now offering an exclusive discount to the Range Podcast listeners. Enter promo code TRP15, that's TRP15, at checkout for 15% off VTX bowstrings and Vapor Trail and Stokerized branded t-shirts, hats, and other gear.